So I've been seeing a lot of talk lately, also through articles and videos I've seen about nightclubs shutting down completely, closing their doors for good, and how a lot of men are opting out of settings like that. And I was actually out and about in the city I'm in where there have been a few of them over the years that have totally closed their doors for good. But I was talking to a restaurant owner, and he had told me that the building that he's in, where he runs his restaurant, actually used to be a nightclub, and how a lot of settings like that are closing, and how even restaurants have taken a hit recently over the past number of years, I suppose, which I think really confirms that bridal stores and home decor stores have certainly taken a hit. There was even a bridal shop about 30 or so minutes south in an area called Tequila that totally gone. The building's totally empty. And we were just kind of brainstorming and talking about why a lot of these settings have slowed down or totally ceased to continue operating. And I had told him about the time when I was 23. And I had a couple of friends who were into nightclubs, and I had actually gone out with them one night and one night only and seen these nightclubs, which I saw as a complete waste of time, which I didn't like at all. But besides even that, seeing how it is nothing but women who are going there to use men as a walking wallet, how the drinks are overpriced, how the tables are overpriced, they're changing songs every 30 seconds. But with all that, men not wanting to involve themselves with the antics of modern women, especially in settings like this. It's the same thing as dating apps, really. Looking for attention and validation. And men are not naive to it anymore. They're wise to it to know that if you are trying to find anything serious at a nightclub, you've already lost. It is a complete waste of your time. That is besides even seeing so many people, which is why I think it's good that less men are going. Seeing a lot of people over the years that I've known have their lives thrown in complete disarray because of drinking, because of problems with drinking, where it usually starts with a nightclub or a setting like that when they were younger. But beyond that, beyond just the problems with drinking and how destructive that can be, seeing men have their lives destroyed by the kind of women that are in nightclubs, which is exactly why men aren't going. I remember hearing about things like, I'm sure you've all heard about this term ladies' night. Hearing about nightclubs having ladies' night, where essentially the whole idea was to have women go in for free, to have men go, because they'd be the ones that were really spending the money, right? Where they would buy drinks for the women, buy tables and such, and pay for entry. That was the whole idea there. Ladies' nights are really ceasing to exist. Those are hardly even a thing anymore, if that, from what I've seen. They're not a thing anymore. They don't exist. And the times that I've been out and about in the city and just happened to maybe drive by past one of these nightclubs, I see nothing between who's waiting in line to get in, between who's inside from what I can see in the windows. For the most part, women who are in their 30s wanting to get in these sorts of nightclubs, which when it comes to the kind of attention and validation stuff, I remember one of the first things I saw when I had gone to the nightclub was a guy paying a girl $20 cash for her to dance with him for one song, which is probably 30 seconds long, because like I mentioned, they change the songs every few seconds or whatnot. And of course, that's wrong on so many reasons. The guy having no self-respect, which is a problem, certainly part of the issue, but not the whole issue. Women there in the first place just looking for guys as a walking wall to take advantage of them, waste their time, take their money. Exactly why men don't want to go there. But seeing all this, and then you wonder why those same women who will go to settings like that will hold out for a guy that, if he exists, certainly is not going to be there in the first place. We've all heard that, the 25-year-old doctor who's 6'4", making $500,000 a year. Yeah, he's not going to be at a nightclub or a dating app, and they know that deep down. They know that. A lot of the time, they're just going to those kind of places or involving themselves with things just in such to make men feel bad, just for their own egocentric purposes, because that's what they're in love with. They are in love with their own ego. Nothing, I would even argue, nothing good comes out of nightclubs. And when I was younger, I'm sure we've all dealt with forms of pressure, right? Peer pressure and whatnot. I would say anyone who really pushes that on you is probably not your friend in the first place, which, of course, with the couple friends that went when I was 23, I soon found out they weren't people that really had my best interest to begin with. But I would say it is objectively destructive. And as an adult, really throughout my 20s, seeing in my life, in my adult life, for the first time, people being treated as outsiders for not involving themselves with destructive, might I even say, loser activities. And that's not a word I throw around lightly. I see that word thrown around for all the wrong reasons, mainly for modern women. The guy's a loser because he works a job. Keep in mind, he's working to support himself and his family. The reason I say that is because the epitome of what I would call a loser is not someone who is productive with their time or doing all the right things or trying to better themselves and uplifting the people around them and providing for their community, by the way, not breaking it down. But the epitome of that word is someone who is dependent on everyone else's attention and validation for any form of self-esteem or confidence, because they have none. If you are someone who needs to go to the nightclub, who needs to take pictures and you click and swipe 10,000 times a day, you call that self-esteem? The people I've known in my life who have involved themselves with that are the people who are the most miserable and lonely deep down, which is so ironic because there's been this big push to try to point to men who are opting out of settings like that as being lonely, which they're not lonely at all. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely, which I'm all for finding people who are like-minded, right? Your own tribe, people who are going to uplift you, not people who are going to drag you down to try to press you into getting with modern women and their behavior and go to settings like nightclubs and do things that are objectively destructive. No, absolutely not. But the women I have seen that have involved themselves with that kind of lifestyle, they are the most miserable. And they're soon going to be the most miserable because they're going to be the ones that are 40, 50 years old wondering where all the good men are at, which to their surprise, they were not in the nightclubs. The good self-respecting men were not in the nightclubs and they were not in settings like that. They were not interested in talking to women who involved themselves with things like that. And I even saw this when I would go to the gym. I used to go to kind of commercial gyms when I was younger. I would see women who were in their 30s who would go to these sorts of nightclubs and they would want to gossip about it when they were at the gym to other people. They would then post pictures if that didn't make them undateable enough. They would post pictures of themselves at the nightclubs on dating apps, on social media, with their accounts on private. And then wondering why no self-respecting man wants to be with them. It is just not going to happen. It's absolutely not going to happen. And, I don't want to go too off topic here, but even talking to that gentleman who was a restaurant owner, I really wonder how some of these businesses are still operating. I truly do, because the cost of rent, really just the cost of living, but the cost of rent in this city is very expensive. And even when I'll be out and about, if I'm at a mall and such, which even malls, of course, over the years, we've probably been able to see that they've been slowing down. There was a mall called Northgate Mall, which was one of the first malls in America, actually. One of the oldest malls that is, or rather, what was Northgate Mall. It doesn't exist anymore. It's been completely torn down. There's a few kind of stores kind of surrounding it, but the whole mall's gone. And seeing stuff like that, seeing the price of rent here, seeing the price of, I would imagine, to maintain a business, I genuinely wonder how some of them are still operating. Like I'll see stores, clothing stores, restaurants that are empty throughout the day, empty. They might have a few customers throughout the day. That's not to mention the, maintenance of keeping it running, paying employees. I genuinely wonder if they are profitable or how they stay in business. But a big part of that is because men are not seeing any prospect when it comes to relationships. They're not taking, number one, they're also naive to the dinner date thing, right? You see that on dating apps of women who will make accounts to get with men, get free meals. They're naive to that. You don't see that anymore. But you also don't see couples going out and about for the most part. And, the affordability might be a big part of it. But when it comes to nightclubs, I guarantee you this. whether someone has the money or not. Let's say if someone has the ability to spend a ridiculous amount on a table and entry fee and drinks, that is not the primary reason they're not going. They do not want to be around the behavior of modern women. They don't want to be around settings that are objectively destructive. They're also done chasing in the first place. They've seen that it is a complete waste of time. They're not feeling the need to, which of course I think this occurs when they get older, but they're not feeling the need to fit in or be part of some kind of social pressure. That's a big part of why these places are slowing down and closing their doors ultimately. And when it comes to women who go there, who want to act like they are 10s because they get what they think is attention, which aren't men who are looking to date them, by the way, I'll put it that way. I don't support the casual stuff, but they're not men who are looking to take them seriously. And even then, there's very few guys that they want, probably 2 or 3 guys in the club that all the women are trying to go after or exchange social medias with. But you have women who do that for years on end and then think they're the prize. They think that they are a 10, which I'll put it this way. The people who have the need to say things verbally so much, who need to be so arrogant about it, usually are the ones who are not an example of that in practice. So when I hear a woman like that saying that they are a 10, they're this and that, they know what they bring to the table, what do you bring to the table? Years on end at a nightclub, trauma, all these things. That's not at all something that a self-respecting good man is going to want in a relationship. And even saying something like that, right? It just goes to show that they don't provide much of anything in a relationship. They don't provide much of anything. If they think that that is all that matters, that they go to a nightclub wearing who knows what, if I can even call it that, quite frankly, that doesn't make you at all high value. It's quite the opposite. It is the complete opposite, actually. And the attention seeking, the validation, the free drinks are exactly why men are done. The women that involve themselves with that kind of lifestyle are the same ones who are going to be 40, 50 years old, miserable, and wondering where the good men are at. Now, the people I've known that have worked as bouncers, as bartenders in the nightclubs, they have told me stories as well. It's not just the one time I'd gone there and seeing things firsthand. They've seen things, right? They've seen enough, I'll put it that way. They don't involve themselves with settings like that. So ultimately what it comes down to, men have stopped going. Now, talking to this restaurant owner, he seemed to agree. And said that it makes a lot of sense why those sorts of things are ceasing to exist or prosper. And when it comes to even spending time with friends, I think that there are much more productive settings. Let's say, and I've heard talks about social drinking and stuff. Like I said, I choose not to involve myself with it. I've seen too many people fall into problems with that. Someone in particular who I know, which he wouldn't mind me mentioning this. Actually, I chatted with him and he's very open about this, who is 6 years old and having a lot of problems because of years of that, because of it starting out with a nightclub and social this, social that. There are much better ways to spend time with people than be around destructive environments. There are far better ways. I would rather play video games for a few hours in an evening and be on a headset chatting with a friend or family member than be in a nightclub. Now, of course, it's not in person. Of course, there are alternatives to that, like even getting a workout in with someone or just going to a restaurant and sitting down. You don't need to be around that kind of environment. You don't. The drinks are overpriced. The tables are overpriced. It's not at all something that you should be on. It's so loud you can barely hear anything. Mind you, if you're going to socialize and chat with each other, you can barely even hear what's going on in the first place. It's something where I would not at all bother with it, and seemingly a lot of men feel the same way. So, going to the nightclubs is just a complete waste of time, and you're not going to find anything worth taking seriously there. And if a woman happens to see this, I would say if you're involving yourself with something like that, you are making yourself undateable for certain. So many men are already done. I'll say this too. I've seen women who very sadly get influenced by their friend circles and such, where they might not even enjoy that stuff, but they feel like they need to fit in and this is empowering and don't settle, don't be a wife, don't be a mother, don't do this, don't do that. And then before you know it, 5, 10, 15 years goes by and they wonder where the good men are at. Happens all the time. So as always, guys, I appreciate you for viewing the video. Just my kind of thoughts on nightclubs with this talk about nightclubs shutting down, with seeing nightclubs in my area shut down, and ultimately why men are not going, why they stopped going. I think it's pretty easy to see why they are not going. I do not want to involve myself in things that are objectively detrimental and no good. So again, guys, thank you for viewing. Hope you guys have a good one. Appreciate it.